Boss, pleasure to have you on. Appreciate it. First sweet shop owner. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. It's
Like,
interesting.
why did you get in that? Is it just because you didn't want to grow up and you love sweets as a kid, or?
Um, I think more so I just always wanted a challenge. I wanted something different in life. I'd been working, when I'd left college, I did my MVQ working with children. I did that for about 4.5, 5 years. And I just got bored. I was bored
Mm,
of working with someone. Yeah, I was fed up with being told what to do. So I wanted to sort of go out and chase my own dreams and just get out there and do it. Um, and I saw it, set it out as a challenge, really. There used to be a sweet shop in this village. It went quite a long time ago, and I thought, well, why not? Let's just go for it, and
wow.
I just did it.
I love the fact of like you also compete, right? In fitness,
Yeah.
train, a bit of a weapon, and then own a sweet shop. And it's like polar opposite to each other. And I absolutely froth it. I think that's great.
Everybody can't get over that. Like so many people come in and they're like, "Oh, you must not eat any of your sweets. You must not eat anything in here." I love it. I love sweets. To be honest, to be fair, my main forte in regarding sweets is chocolate and crisps.
Mm,
Don't get me wrong, I love a bit of pick and mix, but my favorite is chocolate and crisps. I'm more of a savory and salty girl,
mm.
but yeah, I there's no way I'm not eating something sweet. I
Yeah,
have to
that's
have some.
that's why we
Yeah.
train.
Exactly.
Why do you train? Oh, so I can eat all this.
Exactly. There's no reason why you can't have it. As long as you're training hard, putting in your input and your output, there's no reason.
Yeah, for sure. Everything's balanced. Like we like to. Humans aren't the smartest of species. We like to pendulum from one extreme to the other, right? And you're like, guys, can we learn from this? Like, we probably need to centralize ourselves a little bit. Yeah, let it swing from side to side. Sometimes we're a little bit on our game. Sometimes we're a little bit off. Coming up to Christmas, I'm mostly off. You know, but whatever. Enjoy yourself.
So this is like my coach really sort of hammers into me at the moment. Like I know a lot of people are trying to sort of up their game with their fitness at the moment, but like right now with me, so I'm terrible with eating, and I will vouch for that. I'm the sort of person I before when I worked with a nutritionist, I was terrible with not eating enough. I was always limiting myself with food, and
Mhm.
she was always going on at me saying that you need to eat, you need to eat more, and putting in that food. And right now, his goal with me is just eat. He said at the moment, especially with Christmas, just enjoy your food, just get that food in you and just eat as much as you want. He said if you think about how much you're outputting every day when you're training, and all those calories you're burning when you're training, you should just enjoy your food and just eat. I think this is the biggest problem with it all is people are too focused on what they're putting in them and not focusing on what their body actually needs.
I agree. I completely agree. Like if you look at, let's use CrossFit for example, like the sport of fitness, right? Like we look at the games because everybody likes to idealize the games. It's like a 4 or 5 day competition, right? You look at the leanest individuals, like they do really well in the first couple of days, and then that's kind of it. They bunk. You look at, I think was it Fraser who came out with an interview who said, "I'm not as lean as the other competitors, and that is the reason why I'm better on Sunday, the last day." It was like, yes, because it's just fuel at the end of the day.
Mm,
If your whole thing is let's get on stage, let's have thick skin, let's look as lean as possible. Thumbs up, hats off. That's mega, and that's a different sport. It's going to be different hoops you got to jump through. But if your thing is performance, like, yeah, how are you going to get in there if the car's got no petrol? How are you going to go anywhere?
exactly. Like so I've had it before when people have said to me, "Oh, you should attempt bodybuilding and get down to your leanness." And no, personally, I it's such a massive thing. I empower people that do that, and I really applaud people that do that. But no,
Yeah.
I like a bit of meat on me. And it's like when I've done a competition before, because I was so nervous for that competition the day before, I just didn't eat because I was just so nervous, but I was still able to push through it because of what is in me still, and I just was able to carry on and keep fighting.
So, how did you get into competing and this fitness thing?
Fitness wise, I started that journey because I was quite overweight and I had a lot of sort of general issues. So I was when I first ever started my fitness journey, I was probably about 10 stone, 9.5, 10 stone. And I needed to change my general lifestyle. I was also epileptic as well. And I started my journey with a different coach. I don't know how many years ago now it is, but I've been specifically seizure free for 11 years now.
Wow.
Um, but I needed to change my way of life. I just was eating terribly, didn't give a damn what I ate, just put in anything in my body, just didn't consider myself at all. And I knew I needed to change. So I got in touch with a coach around here, and he literally thrashed me every week. I was up on like the field doing like bear crawls across the field, and running up hills, and something I would never ever choose to do right now because I hate things like that. I hate cardio, would never choose to do it. But I lost a lot of weight. I went right down probably to about 7 or 8 stone, which I needed to do. Um, and it changed me massively. And then I stopped having seizures, which I always to this day believed was partly to do with it, because I needed to change my lifestyle. I needed to change what I was eating, what I was doing, and how I was living, because
Mm.
I wasn't doing any good for myself. And I remember always having this chat with my neurologist. I remember saying to him, since I've changed my lifestyle, since I've changed my daily habits, I've just everything about me has changed. Like everything in general, I sleep better, I feel better. I've generally am better in myself, and he's always agreed with it. He's always agreed that like physically changing myself has probably really done me the world of good.
100%. I say this all the time to people that walk in the gym. Is fitness is a catalyst. It's the start. It is this line that the start line, and it helps everything in life. And then that's down to you. Like we as a coach, we get you to that start line. We get that horse to the water, but you got to drink, right? And
Yeah,
then you change your job because you want to go pursue your own dreams, and you gain confidence, and mental health gets up, and all these different things. You're like, yeah, it's not rocket science. It's just hard because you got to do it every day.
yeah.
Right? It's tedious.
It is very tedious. It's pushing yourself through that barrier every day as well. It's making your mind change. It's like even just generally like day to day, getting up for the gym every day. I don't get me wrong, this day sometimes there's days where I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered. But most days now I can't wait. I can't wait to go to the gym. I can't wait to, go see my coach at the gym. But I'm not going to deny it. There are some days where I'm like, it's more of the fact because I know I'm literally going to be thrashed at the gym by my coach. But back in the day, I would never have had that mindset where I was like, oh, I can't wait to get to the gym. I would have been like so hesitant to. I actually still remember when I had my first ever coach. I used to cancel on him so much because I was so like, I think it was more because I had this body can't think, is it dysmorphia? What's that word when you
Dysmorphia,
just
yeah.
this body dysmorphia about myself, because um I was so afraid of what I looked like all the time. I hated going out, running up the hill. I hated myself. But now I don't care. I don't
Mm.
care what I look like. I put up today on my Instagram. I'm so proud of where I am now. So proud of what I've achieved. And because I've come so far in where I am now. But back then I would have never ever felt like that. Not in a million years. And I think also that's a part of, like, I was saying this to someone the other day, I think as well in the industry with disability fitness and the adaptive fitness, I think it's because it's becoming so much more accepting as well. I think back when I first started training, it wasn't so, and you're probably talking about 10, 11 years ago, it wasn't so accepting back then. People weren't accepting of people with disabilities in training. If you, back then, in about 10 years ago, if you walked into a gym, nobody wanted to help you. Nobody cared about you going into that gym. But now, like if I go into my gym now, everyone is so accepting and so welcoming and so helping. You do get those people that are just so narrow-minded,
Mm-hmm.
but you get that's such a difference in variety of people. And I think that's what scared me the most in going into training before, because I knew how the generation was back then.
Mm. That's such a good point, and I think the growth of social media has actually helped it in a way because people can then access what it's like to be in your shoes, right? How am I supposed to know? and people are, that's too hard basket, be ignorant, whatever. They just kind of push everybody to the side, right? You're like, no, 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 this is what it's like, trying to access a gym and it's not accessible. Okay, cool. So the fifth one I've gone to today is not accessible. Now I've got 10 minutes to train rather than an hour,
Mm.
and you're like, well, maybe we need to do something about this, guys, and I think riding the wave of the adaptive at the games, to be honest, and the wheelchair rugby league, all of it was publicized on BBC, and I think that is unbelievable. You're like, fuck yes, like get it on the telly. These are professional athletes. Get it on the telly.
Yeah.
Get people eyes on. I went to the game in Manchester for the final of England versus France, and there was like 4,500 people in there. And on the commentary, he turns around and goes, "This is a new world record for wheelchair rugby league," and everybody just the place erupted, and you're just like,
That's
this
how it
is
should be. It's how it
mega.
fucking should be because it needs to be more like that. They need to be more accepting and more diverse of people like that because they're not, there's so many people that just don't realize that that is the now.
Mm.
And there's some people that they just don't want to accept it. And that is what is current. There's so many people like when I went to the adaptive games, I think it's April last year, I can't remember how long ago it was now, like the capabilities and what people are able to do with their adaptive disabilities is just unreal. But it's like when you go back to the fact of the gyms being accessible and accessible for people with different disabilities, they're not. And I don't think there's any gym out there until they wake up and smell like the whatever you call it, they're not going to do it because they don't want, some of these gyms don't want to do it, but they should be made to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my current gym. I was having this conversation earlier. The for instance, the disabled bays, they're always taken up by just general narrow-minded people because they, as much as they're coming to the gym to work out, they'll park in those bays. I don't use them because I don't need to use them. I'm fine, but these people will park in them and they just don't care. But the actual owner of the gym does nothing about it. A
Mm.
lift has been out of action since May. Why not fix it? But again, it's making a point and making sure that these gyms are more accessible for disabled people and making them disabled friendly. But it's actually making the gyms wake up and say, look, do you want to be disabled friendly? Do you want to be accessibility friendly? Or do you just want to be, pushed out of that zone? That's the other thing with these gyms as well. Some of them I don't think they care.
No, they don't, unfortunately. That's where I go as well. Like, I love fitness. Like I've worked in it for 12 years, right? And this is kind of my art form, my craft. But at the same time, I'm the world's worst for going in gyms. It's like you don't give a fucking shit. Like,
Mm.
because I can name out an entire list here. I was like, because if you actually cared about this thing or called people and this industry called fitness, right, you would have done this. The toilets would have been clean. That thing that you just walk past, a little bit of tissue on the floor, you'd have picked it up.
Yeah.
The disability toilet or the accessible toilet wouldn't have all the cleaning equipment in it. You'd put it in a storage cupboard.
Mm.
It's just little things like that, right? And I think currently at the moment, I'm trying to brainstorm with coaches I know around the world. I'm just like, how do we get it so it's common practice for every CrossFit gym? Because I think they are leaders in the progressive fitness, so to speak, right? Whether it's affiliated or not, I don't really care. I'm not really into that argument. I'm just like, how do we just help people, right? But how do we get every CrossFit style gym to have an adaptive and inclusive trainer within it, as well as you need your level 3 PT to coach people. You need your CrossFit level 1 to coach people. You're like, fantastic. But how do you then go and get another qualification? So if somebody walks in with a disability who might be visually impaired or whatever it is, you have some sort of knowledge and are qualified for them to come in and you can help them.
Mm.
So how do we do
It,
that?
it's like you say, it's going around and making sure they have them. But I believe something needs to be done because
Yeah.
it's it's making sure there's inclusivity.
Yeah.
So, yeah, inclusivity. Yeah, I can't even say that whole word in one go. But it's making sure there's that because surely it comes under this Disability Act because it's making sure that everyone is accepted in that same area because otherwise you're excluding them because you're saying that they're not able to come into that place because they're not they're not a part of it and they're not able to come because, for instance, like if the lift not working, that person won't be able to get on the top floor, won't be able to get back down.
Mm-hmm.
It's wrong. It's not right. But in the same token, how I don't really know how you go about it with these gyms and these different places. Gyms, like big gyms, I don't know. I really don't know. It is a
Yeah.
really, really hard one to come across because as much as you want to push it to them, they've got to want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to they've got to have it in their own heart to actually want to do it. I think CrossFit places are much more likely to have it in them to want to do it because they have that community spirit and community feedback to want to do it. But big gyms, I'm not going to name any at all, but they don't have it in them to want to do it. They don't care because it's owned by a massive person who has all these other ones around them. They're not bothered. They're really not bothered, which is so frustrating.
It really is, and I think the market dictates all at the end of the day, and I think people need to understand that the power's in their hands. You know that we've never lived in a time where you have more quote unquote power because you can just voice your opinion, right? You can kind of
Yeah.
just shove it out there and talk to people, and this is where I believe in a bottom up approach of like, let's fix the grassroots first.
Mm,
Fuck the top. I don't really care about them. Like, whatever. You
yeah.
go make your billions, your millions. I don't really give a shit, mate. Like, I'm just gonna go outside and dig holes. I'm just gonna go do my thing, and we're gonna help people. And eventually, it catches on. It takes a long time. Unfortunately, that's just what happens. But eventually, it catches on, and it forces the big fish to change their tune.
I think that is a key point. I think you have to start at the lower point and you have to keep digging into other people that can
Mm-hmm.
then start helping you. Because I think it's like myself, they don't at my gym they don't have any women's bars, which are the smaller ones. So I just bring in my own. And
Mm-hmm.
then I've started adding more bits, but I just keep them hidden in a certain place. And you just have to, and then you just dig at them, and you just keep going at them. But
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly like you said. You just have to keep going at the lower people, and it's yeah, it's hard. It's very hard.
It's funny you bring up women's bars because that's one of my pet peeves. If I go into a gym and there's only the 20 kilo bars, so predominantly male bars, it pisses me off. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
use the 15, right? I'm always going to pick up a 20 kilo bar. That's just, that's not for me, but it pisses me off. I'm like, but what if someone's got tiny hands? What if someone can't pick up 20 kilos? What if a kid wants to
Mhm.
deadlift and they can't pick up 20 kilos? And it's like, it winds me up. It's
Does my head in. Like there's not a single one in our gym. There's not a single women's bar in our gym. And it's not about the weight, it's the grip. It's the
Mhm.
fact that it's a smaller bar. Even my coach loves the fact that it's smaller, it's easier to grip. He's even used it before. And there's not a single one. So I bought it through lockdown actually, and I bought it for when we were training outside.
Mm.
And I took it into the gym because they didn't have one, and I said to them, "Could you please get some? Because I have a smaller grip." Some other women have also said, "No, sorry."
Is that it? That's all they said.
Yeah,
What
literally, I
the
was like,
fuck?
"But it would be easier for me to use." I don't like to keep bringing mine in because I've had like my stuff nicked from the
Yeah, of
staff
course.
room, which I kept my stuff in. No, sorry, we've got bars here. You just have to use them.
Go fuck yourself. Honestly, like
But
I think
they honestly don't give a shit. They don't like I've emailed I've had words with this gym before about the like go back to like disabled parking. I will keep an eye on it. It's like,
yes,
yeah, you're doing a
mega.
great job at that.
See, this is where I love sport, right? I think it's like for example, watching the World Cup the other day and Morocco wins, right? Like you just see everything's just elevated and everybody's kind of like gathering around an underdog, and I think that's just going to go help the country, right? South Africa win the Rugby World Cup, it helps the country a little bit. So this is where I think you're in a really good position in a sense of we're going to go do the national fitness games or whatever it is, right? Some sort of competition. You're going to smash it out the park. All right. People are going to be like, what the fuck? That's better than me. It's like, I can't
Mm.
do that. I was like, yes, because you don't train like that. Of course, you can't do it. Like these things are hard, right? And then that has got the attention. And then you also have got the platform of like, okay, here's a microphone. Or then what's your opinion? And how do we how do we improve this accessibility of X, Y, or Z, right? And I think this is where sport is a really unique position because it gets eyes, it gets attention, right? And especially if we can kind of capitalize off the back of CrossFit doing a pretty good job of the adaptive side now, and the wheelchair rugby league, like I said, and like the Paralympics and all this. So I was like, let's just capitalize off more marketing, right? And
Mm.
highlight, let's be honest, absolute demons, right? You're like, well, I can't do that. Like, it's not happening. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that, right? And you're like, cool. Now give that person an opportunity to become a voice for the voiceless. Boom.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way.
It's getting to the right people as well, though. It's getting them to listen and to understand what is needed and what is needed to be put
Mm.
out there. It really is. It's getting to the right people and getting them to listen and to understand. Because
There
I think
are,
there's a lot of people that don't get it.
yeah, and there's a lot of people that don't care either,
Yeah.
and that's okay. They have the right not to care. Like, let's be honest. But we're just going to do our thing, and eventually they're going to have to change tides because it'll either be industry standard or you'd have to have a piece of legislation, or it was the same thing with health and safety, right? You never really had to, like, fire exits didn't really become a thing. AED machines weren't, oh no, you don't need one. I was like, oh yeah,
Mm.
the closest defib is 5 miles down the road at a Mackey's. You're like, yeah, but the person's gonna be dead. What do you mean 5 miles down the road? We've got to drive 5 and then come back 5. That's 10 miles. What the fuck? You're like,
He'll
yeah,
be up
now
in heaven
that's
by then.
exactly. So it's I think we just got to keep knocking on those doors. People do care. People are allowed to change their mind. Some people might have been ignorant, head in the sand, and just by having a open conversation, they're like, oh, actually, that's a really good point. You're like, yes. So let's keep the ball rolling.
Thing is, you're always going to get the ones that have their own opinions on it as well, which I think is understandable.
Mm.
You're going to get the different sides of opinions, but I think at the end of the day, you need as much as it's hard to accept. And this is another point I made to somebody the other day. You need the vice versa in
Yes.
life. You do need it because it's about learning and accepting in life, because you can't actually learn to live your life without having sort of almost like the negatives in life as well as such, because it's how you learn to get on in life, because if you don't have those in your life, you'll never learn. I don't know how to sort of say that without saying the same thing over and over. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You with the negative shit you get in your life, you need that because it allows you to learn and accept what is actually going on. Like if you always had happy thoughts, happy stuff coming in all the time, you'd never actually learn about your life and how it can be and how good it can be. Because
Mm.
if it's the same with this, you need to have the negative crap coming in as well. And I've always said this as well. And as crap as it is, we have to just learn to accept that some people won't give a shit about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be some people out there as much and this is another thing that really bugs me and is bugbear of me. As much as some people out there make out they actually really care about it and make out they're a part of it, they really don't.
Oh, put your money where
They're
your
really
mouth is,
not.
right? Do something about it, and
Yeah,
it's
there's some people out there in this fitness industry, they make out they're a part of all the adaptive community and stuff like that when they're really not.
mm.
They're really not a part of it. They sort of do it so they've got it on their Insta, their this and that, and it's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same. I have this conversation with coaches a lot of, we talk about effective communication, because we have to say things not in a way that we want to say it, but in a way that you're going to understand it, right?
Mm,
To get you something that you want to do, but by providing you with something that you need. And more than likely, you don't want to do that at the initial moment, right? And I'm like,
mm,
okay, great. Well, do you know how to say your name in sign language? And pretty much everyone, I'd say 99%, will turn around and be like, no, why would I need that? I was like, because that's communication,
yeah,
like that's all it is. It's being able to communicate. We do non-verbal communication in a CrossFit gym. When the music's blasting, the midway through a workout, they don't know who the name is, what they're doing. We need to be able to communicate with them without the words. That's
yeah.
all it is. and it's opening up those mental avenues of being like, guys, there's another way of thinking about this. And to be honest with you, I wholeheartedly respect anybody on the planet that can turn around to me and be like, Alex, have you thought about this way? And if I've not, I'm like, wow, this is phenomenal. Thank you very much. Or they trip
Mm,
me up and was like, Alex, you've been a dick here. Like, you need to think about this side. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even think of that. Thank you.
mm.
I think you made a really, really good point. You need that challenge. You really do.
You do need a challenge, and I think it's also, I think going back to what I said, I think people that try to be, there's so many fucking amazing people out there that are huge advocates on the adaptive industry, because I know they are, but there's some people that, like, when the moment's in the moment and it's like it's happening and the thing is happening, they make out their advocates and they support it, but once it's over, it's gone,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't care about it anymore. And it's like, we, if you're going to support it when it's happening, you should be supporting it all the time, and you should be advocating it all the time. Don't support it in that moment when it's happened. And like you say as well, make sure you know about every single disability within that industry and everything, every inclusive adaptive fitness, everything. Don't make out that you're just supporting it like all the time when you're only supporting it in that moment. And it just, it's a bugbear of mine. I don't like it. It's made me step away from a lot of people that I used to follow, because I used to think to myself, oh, they're really inspirational. And then I noticed, I was like, no, they're really not. They're actually just, they're doing it for A, for the followers, and B, they're making out that they support this adaptive industry and they're really all out there for it. And it's like, no, you're not.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. It's kind of like glory hunting, right? Like
Mm,
you're there
yeah,
when the lights are on. You're like, yeah, woo, we're
yeah,
adaptive, inclusive, or whatever. And
yeah.
when the attention goes somewhere else, they kind of follow that attention. You're like, go fuck yourself, man. Like you didn't.
Yeah, there is literally, in that line, when they're in that limelight, they're like, oh, I'll put it all on my story. I'll make out that I'm a massive advocate of it. And then once that moment has gone, it's like straight back on me now.
Mm,
But then like when it's, it's in my eyes, like, I'm the sort of person that always, if I support something, I fully support it, and I always support it no matter what it is.
mm.
And they should be the same.
People are weird though, right?
Oh yeah.
Like
Very.
people are bat crap crazy, honestly. Like, and especially with quick 3 seconds of fame now, right? Not even 30 seconds of fame. It's like it's 2 seconds and you're out. That's all you got.
Hmm.
This is your limelight. That's your chance to speak. And they end up chasing it, just to chase it. And I think developing your confidence and understanding how you think and feel and what you believe in, right? And just do that, man. Like you'll end up gravitating towards people that have the same sort of thought processes as you, right? And then you can challenge
Mm.
one another within it.
Sorry.
Then you can challenge one another within it, like
Yeah,
then,
definitely.
we might see eye to eye, but we're gonna look at it from a different angle. So I'm like, Miranda, how do
Yeah.
you think about this? You're like, oh, I think about it this way. You're like, fuck, I never would have thought about that. Thank you. Let me entertain that thought process for a week, and then I'll come back to you with how I feel.
But this is the thing as well. Like, nobody has to agree on the same thing.
Mm,
Everyone can have their own opinions on each of it, and that's another thing as well. Like, everybody has their own different opinions on each thing, which is fine as well.
mm,
It's not. It's a completely diverse, whole thing as well.
mm.
It's a very, very mixed up feelings for everybody on what they think of it. But I've had it with some people as well. I've had someone make a comment before in the gym where I've mentioned about the disabled bays, and they were like, well, we don't need them because disabled people don't train.
Oy.
And that, this is where, like, you get these comments because they don't feel that people are this capable of doing it. But where do you cut the line from people that feel like that and just shut off them and just go, okay, that's how they feel, leave it? Or do you go at them for it? This is the problem.
Yeah.
It's very hard, because I think this is something I've learned myself from owning the business. And I was saying this to him the other day, you have to like almost sometimes just shut out these people and shut out their negativeness, because if that's how they want to think, fuck them, let them think that. Let like you said earlier, let us prove them wrong.
Mhm.
But you know, at the end of the day, we know they're wrong, and that's their thinking. That's how they want to think. Fuck them. You know,
100%.
people are just so narrow-minded these days. That's half the problem.
Yeah, and sometimes you need to protect your own sanity, let's be honest, and mental health by not even engaging in that argument. You know, like there's a lot of the time where I think we could have a really constructive conversation, but I also pretty much know that that individual is going to take it towards an argument. I just agree
Oh
and be
yeah.
like, yeah, sure, and then just
Mm.
walk off. Like, I've not got any time nor energy for arguing. You know,
No,
like, are we going to converse like adults? No, okay, fine, thank you. Like, I'll just go, I'll do something
this
else.
is it
Believe
these
whatever you
days.
want. It's
There's
weird.
like, you know what they're like, you know what they're going to be like, you know that you just you sort of like talk to yourself in your head and say, do I carry this on, or is this person just going to be an absolute fool and start a huge argument that I can't be bothered with today? Yeah, just walk away, Miranda.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make your life a lot better if you just walk away, and then that saves you a hell of a lot, really, just walking away.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like the people who shout the loudest are the ones that get their opinions heard, but usually the loudest people have nothing to say,
So true. It's
right?
always so true.
And you're like, we didn't actually get anything from this conversation. You know, I was like, I'm just gonna go spend more time on my own. Like, fuck them.
It is always those ones that are shouting and screaming at people, and they're like, "What are you actually achieving from this? You're not really achieving anything."
Like if you wrote down on a piece of paper what you actually had to say, it's probably going to be a smiley face and a dick. That's it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that's all it is. Like you don't actually have anything valuable to say, so shut up. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly that.
but if if you had one piece of advice to give the whole industry and everybody to make things more accessible, what would it be?
Just to be more accepting of people, change how you look at training, and change how you when you're building your gym, when you're starting your gym, be more accessible for everybody. Like realize that everybody is capable of everything. There aren't any limits in life. You know, when you look at everybody, they will always push themselves to everything they want are capable of. I've always said there is no limits, and
Mm-hmm.
that's always what I've stuck by. Everybody is capable of something if they push their hardest to it. Just be more accepting of everybody, and in every shape and form, size, height, you name it, any disability. From the things I have seen and what I have, you know, seen people accomplish, they have done everything from every single disability. And people just need to be more open and more accessible in their gyms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no reason why they can't. Absolutely no reason. Like you said as well, these coaches need to be more open. Like I look at mine, he has the way he has adapted his training to me, and we've adapted it together. I applaud him. He's
Mm-hmm.
just fantastic, and it's opened up other people's eyes and other people like me to see that they are capable of doing it. And it just shows you that there isn't any stopping others, because everybody is able to do it. There's no reason why other coaches, other gyms can't jump that hurdle themselves.
Yeah,
No reason
100%.
at all.
Like it's not even hard. It just takes a little bit of humility. You know, I've just been
Yeah,
like, hey, I don't really know. Like, what do you think? You're like, oh, well, I actually can't do this, but I can do this instead. You're like, okay, cool. Yeah, all right, let's try that. Let's see what it's like. You know, it's just
exactly.
adapting on the fly, right? Like,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's literally all it is adapting, is changing the way you do it, changing how you lift, changing the machine. So you can't do that machine, you know, or if you can do it, you just need a few plates to sit on to reach it. You
mm-hmm,
know, there's another little girl, another short girl that I know that lifts. She's got much smaller hands than me. She's a lot shorter than me. So she just stands on plates when she lifts. She's adapted everything. She messages me quite a lot and says, how do I change this? I said, tell your coach to look at things and adapt things to what you are capable of, because there's so much you are capable of. It just is about adapting. There is nothing you aren't capable of. You know, it's like in general day-to-day life, like nothing in my house is adapted. My kitchen sides aren't adapted, nothing. I adapt it to myself because I've always learned that in life, that I have to adapt to the outside world, because that is what life is going to be like. Because unfortunately, life out in the outside world will never adapt to us. We have to adapt to it. But in things like this, it has to be adapted. You know, it's how it's going to be.
Wow. Amanda, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate your time so much. I appreciate your honesty, your perception on things, your opinion, and definitely the sweets.
No worries. It's been an
Mate,
absolute pleasure.
appreciate it. We're going to have to do it again sometime, you know?
Definitely.
And yeah, keep me up to date when you do next, when you train, whenever you compete. And I'll let you know if I end up bashing any doors in to try and get this adaptive stuff going more in the UK, you know?
There's something very exciting happening Thursday, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it. So I
Oh,
will keep you up to date.
sounds good. Absolutely mega. Appreciate it. Speak soon.
Amazing. Speak to you soon. Take care.
All right, mate. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.